The ban on the Popular Front of India wasn't a sudden decision. It was preceded by raids, arrests of multiple PSI leaders, their cadres, and collection of evidence, which was very crucial before the ban could come in. This seemed to be a very well thought out and planned strategy and operation by intelligence and investigating agencies, where the government chipped in by getting the Muslim organizations on board, by consulting with them to denounce the extremist ideology, and also creating an atmosphere where the entire country could come together to be able to support the ban. What are your thoughts on this, sir?
This PFI is a very old organization. It was set up in 2004 by three fundamentalist Islamic organizations combining together in South India. And after that, they started increasing their spread, and very quickly they spread to virtually all over India. Their motivation was that they wanted to establish an Islamic government. They also started getting a lot of aid and money from abroad, and also developed some connections with fundamentalist organizations, Islamic organizations abroad. They tried to emulate, and they have been praising Muslim Brotherhood organization. As a matter of fact, Muslim Brotherhood organization was banned, and in Egypt they had a special day and programs organized for that. Also, some connections have been found with the PSIs as well as the Al-Qaeda. So right from the very beginning, they had intentions were very, very bad, and they started indulging in various criminal activities, whether it was bombing, whether it was use of explosives. Some murders have been committed by their cadres, and 1,400 is the number, roughly, PFI cadres who have been arrested. So the government had to take some decision. They could not allow this organization to continue to spread and to motivate people, mislead their community. As a matter of fact, they had very aggressive demonstrations, complete with people dressed up in uniform and carrying bamboo sticks, and having many programs were held all over the country for training their cadres. The government had to take a decision, and I think it is the right time that they did. Hopefully, there will be a lot of evidence which they have collected, because it was also done very secretly, and I don't think there was any indication to anybody that this effort would be made, this raids would be conducted in so many states simultaneously. About 450 of their functionaries, senior functionaries and leaders have been arrested, and a lot of documents as well as electronic equipment has been seized. So hopefully there will be a lot of evidence, and the tribunal will also be satisfied and will reaffirm the decision of the government to ban this organization and suspend it for 5 years.
The fact is that a large part of the PSI cadres, particularly their top leadership, comes from the SIMI, the Students Islamic Movement of India, which was banned in 2001. The fact that a lot of these SIMI cadres, soon after the ban on SIMI, switched over to organizations like the PSI and began their activities in another form, changing color, just the way multiple terror organizations do the moment they are banned. How do you see this whole crackdown again clamping heavily down on outfits like the SIMI, which have made inroads not just in PSI, but the radicalization and the kind of extremism is rampant across?
There is always an apprehension that some other organizations will come up, but in this case there are about 8 associated organizations of the PFI which have also been banned. So I think that this is very good operation which has been conducted, and the sheer scale of it has been shows that there was a lot of planning and organization, and at the same they were able to maintain their secrecy. Fortunately, now we have been able to develop channels of information coming in from abroad, various agencies. As a matter of fact, the United Nations is also taking a lot of interest in this. With this feedback coming in, particularly the money part, if is stopped, foreign money coming in for these organizations, then we will have a major success.
More work seems to have been done by the Enforcement Directorate in this direction, where before the ban and the raids, a lot of their accounts were seized. The kind of money laundering network they had formed with their own operatives in Gulf countries had been exposed and presented before the government. So in that sense, how do you see simultaneously cracking down on choking the funds of an organization like this is much more important than just clamping down with penal provisions?
There has to be a multiple approach. Apart from identification of these people, identification of their centers, identification of where they are meeting, and gaining information about what they are planning to do, what type of propaganda they are continuing. Finance is a very important element, and if we are successful in preventing funds coming into them and also preventing people from contributing to these so-called causes which their propaganda and their fundamentalist ideas which they propound, I think that will be a very positive factor. But at the same time, one has to realize that the Islamist radical groups are very large number and they are very, very active, and every time we have to be very careful about it.
It's been a shocking misleading of, the Muslim community, with PSI trying to portray itself as a charitable organization working for the downtrodden, and then to have bogus receipts, bogus funding, and it creates a disenchantment amongst the section of a large population where they feel cheated by somebody who was trying to project themselves as the messiahs taking a community forward. How do you think the PSI has really let down its people who were looking for genuine help, or a genuine charitable organization for that matter?
You see, here we have educated our own masses also. The people themselves have to realize, and I think there is a movement. It may be very slight, it may be very early, but some movement has started in the community itself to rethink whether they should go by the fundamentalist ideologies which have been going around in the past and which I would say were freely being propounded. Now that thinking in the community is very, very necessary, and I think the government in the different states as well as center, they have to pay attention to this. And some steps which are being taken, like in UP, making the madrasas, the curriculum of the madrasas broad-based and contemporary rather than restricting them to religious doctrination and teaching. I think this is something which has to be done. The such like areas have to be identified, whether they are the madrasas or their religious places, and I think if we make an effort, we will be able to convince the people that what is being practiced by some of them is entirely wrong. They must not fall or become a prey to them.
The PSI was also fueling the Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act protests in the country, the Hathras, the kind of fueling of protests across the country, raising issues of human rights violations where there were none, was a kind of a strategy that the PSI was employing across the country to disturb communal harmony and create public unrest. How do you see the PSI's role in these activities?
You know that apart from this, not only were the citizens, this particular act that you referred to, not only there, but also the hijab movement. There's a lot of evidence to show that the PFI has been one of the sponsors of this movement.
How do you see the tenure of the UPA in handling the PFI and vis-a-vis what we see now? Do you think it required political will and consultations with states, or just a decision that had to be taken?
You see, this is very unfortunate aspect. This is unfortunate truth that political sort of ideas intervene. The security of the nation, the security and welfare, peace and harmony becomes no action is taken. Now this is, I think, something which has to be corrected, and everybody should realize that the security of the nation is foremost and it is of the greatest importance, and no political party thinking or ideology should be above this. And that I am sure also will come forth in our own country, but maybe not immediately, and it will take a lot of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.